Hey guys, King of Triman is here. Alright, so if you are looking for the tankiest mon in the Catch Cup, well, here it is right here. You already know, and you've probably already played Umbreon. Umbreon is one of the thickest Pokemon in Great League. It's literally been prevalent since Season 1, and it is a monster tank. As you see here, its defense and stamina are really, really high. So if you have one you want to use for Go Battle League, you technically don't even need Last Resort. You can get by just fine with Foul Play. So if you really like using Umbreon, Single Move Umbreon might be the best single move Pokemon in this entire meta. So Umbreon is a Dark type. Being a pure Dark type, it has few weaknesses but also few resistances as well. Now as you see, double resist Psychic, you resist Dark and Ghost as well. Haunter is, or Umbreon is actually Haunter's like worst nightmare if it's not carrying Sludge Bomb. Well, even then, if it carries Sludge Bomb, Umbreon is still your worst nightmare. It's weak to Bug, Fairy, and Fighting. I can see Fairy and Fighting being prevalent in this cup, especially with things like Wigglytuff, Machamp, Scrafty, etc. However, if you're able to keep away from either of these two typings, Umbreon still does incredibly well against the rest of the meta. As you see, Umbreon costs 75,000 dust to use. However, it has a very small move pool. Snarl, Dark Pulse, and Foul Play. And like I said, you can get by just fine with Snarl and Foul Play. Obviously, your biggest enemies are going to be fighters. However, if you can take out the fighter, or if they're not running double fighters, you're still pretty comfortable in the Catch Cup with a single move Umbreon. In my opinion, this is the best single move mon you can have for the Catch Cup. Alright, so here I have the 2 shield. I already put everything ahead of time, so you guys don't have to worry about like simulations going through. I made it a little easier. As you see, mythicals are taken out of the context. And as you see here, we get out the 2 shields. So this is Umbreon in the lead. So if you like leading with Umbreon, it's not bad in the league. Rank 37. Actually beats Altaria in the 2 shields, Hypno, Dragonite, Marowak, and Bronzong. Now, you do die against Dragon Breath users, several of them. However, I don't foresee a lot of people building Dragon Breath users for this cup. If you do use them, you're pretty insane because they cost a lot of Stardust. I know there are Dratinis that are like spawning for like several events. You can actually get them from Go Battle League rewards too, so that's really expensive. Anyways, Umbreon's still pretty solid. The fact that I could beat Altaria in the 2 shield is pretty nuts. So you just go straight Foul Play. As you see here, this is crazy. As you see, you put Umbreon versus Altaria, you just go straight Foul Play. Boom. And you still kill it. And you still have hella HP left. Like, bro. But, like, that's a lot. So, wait, hold on. Not Dragon Pulse. Why is it DZ in Sky Attack? So, yeah, why does it have that weird moveset? Anyways, if you do it here, nope, you still win. Yeah, you still win. I mean, you are left with 4 HP, but you still kill it just going straight, literally just straight Foul Play. So you don't even, like you see, you don't even really need Last Resort for a lot of matchups. And if you're comfortable with playing with Umbreon, it's really strong. So that's a 2 shield. Here's the 1 shield. If you see the 1 shield, Umbreon ranks at number 33. So it's still pretty high up there. Beats things like a Lone Marowak. If you had that one crazy dude that really powered up that Cresselia with Grass Knot, you didn't catch it from that event way long ago. Guess what? You beat them. You also beat Melmetal too, so I don't believe Melmetal is allowed in this cup, but if it is, then you still destroy it. So Umbreon don't care. Umbreon go and look at you and be like, oh, okay. Your key losses are things that you might not likely see. Bastiodon takes a lot of Stardust to power up. You have to Elite TM that Swampert. G-Stumpus can still be flying around, however, I wouldn't recommend seeing a lot of them flying around. You probably will see Zawilus, and you got Magnezone. So, boom. It's literally, yeah, I wouldn't worry too much about key loss. As you see, still very strong in the 1 shield. Zeros, things get pretty interesting. As you see in the 0 shield, the Zeros, Umbreon ranks at number 40. So still not bad. You beat Shadow Mewtwo, you beat Cresselia, you beat Frostless. I don't foresee Snorlax being spawning in wild, but if they do happen to have a Ghastly and they evolve into a Haunter or Gengar, guess what? Remember how I told you to destroy Haunter and Gengar? Guess what? There it is right there. Now, your key losses are still against things that are really expensive, so I wouldn't really worry about seeing them too much. If you do see them, just be aware that you do lose G-Fisk, Electivire, Bastiodon, Melmetal's Wireless, and we'll look at all this in the Matrix, so you don't really have to worry about it over here, but we're going to take a look at this from the whole picture on the Matrix. Alright, so here we have Umbreon. I put, as you see on the left, my favorite thing about the Matrix is that you could put whatever moveset you want. So we got Umbreon with Foul Play, you have Umbreon with Last Resort. And now we have the Catch Cup, a custom meta I put on the right for the Catch Cup. If you take out Mythicals, this is what you get. Put it over here. Ready, hit enter with the 2-shield scenario. So this is the lead. As you see here, this is Umbreon with just Snarl and Foul Play. This is with Last Resort. You beat practically the same matchups. You beat Altara, you still beat Alolan Marowak. As you see, you're going to lose hard against things like Fighters. So just be careful. If you see Fighters, get away from there. Because, as you see, even with or without Last Resort, you're not going to get to that Last Resort. It's going to punch you to death, and it's going to suck because it does resist your Foul Play and Snarls that you throw at it. As you see here, you still lose against practically the same matchups with or without Last Resort. As you see here, you still lose against Swamp. You'll beat the same things, of course. You beat Altara, you beat Alolan Marowak. You lose against Fighters, like I said, and Dragon Breath users, so just avoid them. This isn't a bad matchup, though. As you see, 448, it's not a super bad matchup. That gives you the ability to take both of their shields and farm down this Pokemon, and then you can throw whatever's in the back. You still beat Abomasnow, you still beat Swampert. You'll also need to avoid Charmers, too, because as you see here, you're still going to lose against the same thing. You still beat Abomasnow, you still beat Dragonite, you beat Dragonair. You actually beat Dragonair in the 2-shield scenario with just going straight Foul Play. And you also beat Bastiodon in the 2s. You beat Bastiodon, yes. I believe this is IV dependent, though, so you kind of, let's see, what IVs are these? Let's see, what IVs are these? Well, it's not that bad, so it's not, you don't have to, like, super IVs, like, for Bastiodon, so just be careful. Just be mindful if you have a really bad one, like 15, 15, 15, you're probably going to lose, but otherwise, if you have a decent one, like I said, this IV spread is 7, 13, 15, you should be alright. You'll be Bastiodon 2s. So, you lose against Whimsicott. Of course, Whimsicott's a Charmer, so you're going to lose against it. You lose against Tropius, Snowy Castform, Charmers. You also lose against Razor Leafers. So, you're going to lose against Shadow Victory Belt, and you're going to lose against Shadow Gloom just because they have shields. If they have shields, they'll kill you. If they don't have shields, you'll probably kill them. But we'll take a look at that soon. You beat Shadow Magnezone, don't foresee Shadows, you also lose against Azumarill. So, regardless of whether you have Last Resort or not, as you see, you will still lose against it. Now, with Last Resort, you can meet Mandibuzz. Now, if you have that one crazy guy that's willing to power up a Mandibuzz after hatching it from a 12k egg and then using it for the catch-up, that's a lot of work. So, I wouldn't bank too much on seeing Mandibuzz. If you do see it, though, you will lose without Last Resort, but just keep that in mind. So, things change in the 1-shield. When you get to the 1-shield, things get a little dicey. So, I would go here, you go to the 1-shield, scroll down, and this is what we get. So you still beat practically the same matchups. As you see, you'll still lose against Fighters, things that still beat you before, like Zweilous, Galarian Stunfisk, Charmers, and Fighters, they all beat you. So remember, try to avoid them. You do beat Abomasnow. I don't foresee a lot of Swamperts with Hydro Cannons, but they do decide C1, and you're like, oh boy, that's a Swampert that was built for this cup. What? He Elite Teamed it? If they did, he or she did Elite Team it, then make sure you be careful. Well, you'll still beat it, so you don't really have to worry about it. You will lose against the Shadow version, though. So Shadow Swampert kicks your butt, but the regular Swampert doesn't. I don't foresee this happening anytime soon, though, because you cannot TM Frustration off as of right now for the Catch Cup. At least for till the Catch Cup. Unless some random event comes around, then you can. But you do beat Dragonair, you beat Skarmory. You actually beat Skarmory in the 1-shield, regardless of whether you have Foul Play. I mean, Last Resort. See what I mean here? You pretty much beat the same matchups. Not much. The only matchup you flip in the 2s and the 1s not having Last Resort is Mandibuzz. And like I'm saying, probably won't see a lot of Mandibuzzes. You beat Wishcash, you beat Ferrothorn. This is where you'll beat Shadow Victory Belt and you'll beat Shadow Gloom, I believe, is if you're in the 1-shield because you're able to land a move on them. They have to shield or they lose. That's the 1-shield, and now the closer. As you see here, definitely the best and definitely one of the most powerful fast mover, like one-turn moves in a game. As you see, you'll still only win against... You'll still beat the same things. Remember, avoid Charmers, join Fighters. You'll still beat Altari. You'll beat Alolan Marowak. You beat Abomasnow. Now, here's where it gets a little dicey. Again, you won't see Hydro Cannon Swampert, but without Last Resort, you do lose against it, unfortunately. You beat Obama Snow, you also beat Dragonair, and you lose against a ton of other things. So you'll lose against Bastion in the closers, so just be mindful of that. But however, as you see here, the big highlight of this, you beat Magzone, you beat Shadow Gloom, and you also beat Victory Bell. And you'll still lose against Mandibuzz, just because it's Mandibuzz. So Mandibuzz will wall you, but with Last Resort, like I say, I don't foresee a lot of Mandibuzz coming around, but if they do, then poof. So here, as you see, you still beat everything except Mandibuzz, really like Mandibuzz and Swampert in the closer. For the 1s and the 2s, you beat generally the same matchups. All you have to do is keep Umbreon away from those fighters, those Charmers, and you should be, from those fighters, Charmers, G-Stunfisk, keep it away from its strong losing matchups, like Zweilous, matchup, etc. And if you can take out their fighters, that's good. Unless they're running double fighter, then there's just really no hope. Now, up a shield things get interesting. If you're up a shield, you are able to actually beat Machamp with Last Resort. So being in shield advantage, this is where foul play matters. You can beat Machamp if you have Last Resort. So that's the only difference, beating Machamp. Which can be huge. You also beat Zweilous. So you also beat Zweilous being up a shield. So being up a shield, we flip that, we switch Zweilous. You beat the Mirror Umbreon if you have Last Resort. You meet one with foul play, it's likely that Umbreon doesn't have Last Resort unless your opponent actually Elite TM'd it. So just keep that in mind. And then you beat a lot of the other matter. You beat Wishcash, you beat Dragonite. You can beat Manitas as long as you have shield advantage. So it doesn't matter which one you have. So you could just beat it going straight Snarl now. That's as long as you're in the 1-0s. You beat Victory Bell, and you beat Snowy Castform, etc. As you see, once you have shield advantage in the 1-0s, you not having Last Resort does matter quite a bit. Not quite a bit. I don't foresee a lot of Zweilous. You might be able to see Machamp, so that's a little heavy. That's a matchup you lose. But for the most part, you do beat a lot of relevant matches. So here's the 2-shield. Any Pokemon with 2 shields is incredibly powerful. It's no different here. As you see, with 2 shields, you beat G-Fisk. You beat Altaria. You will beat Marowak. Now, you'll still lose hard against fighters without Last Resort, as you see. With Last Resort allows you to take on those fighters matchups, and you do lose without them. However, you still pick up matchups against everything else that you normally would win. Like Skarmory, you beat Vigoroth, you beat Bastiodon, Tropius, Snowy Castform, those Shadow Razor Leafers, Wishcash, Ferrothorn, and of course be careful of Scrafty. And Altaria. You beat Altaria, beat Noctis. Now in the 2-1, things might change a little bit. Let's see if things change a little bit. Having shield advantage, so in the 2-1s, if you have shield advantage, what happens? You beat Zweilous if you have Last Resort. You lose against it if you don't. You also beat Vigoroth if you have Last Resort in the 2-1s. You do not beat it if you have Foul Play. As you see here, you beat a lot of matchups. You beat Umbreon and Azu being up a shield, so that's kind of a big deal. But for the most part, you still beat a lot of other matchups. Dragonite, Mandibuzz, Wishcash, Ferrothorn, Vileplume, Shadow, Victory Bell. So, the reason why I'm not too stressed out about these matchups, I don't foresee an Azu running around. If you do see one, you're kind of on a huge disadvantage anyways, because Azu is one of the greatest Pokemon in Great League. So if you do see one, be careful. So you can see Azu removals because it can be caught in the wild, so be careful of that. Fellow Umbreons, I don't foresee them having Last Resort. Bank on the fact that an Umbreon will have a single move if you do see one, because if they're really that crazy spend Elite TM and that 75k dust to power one up. Again, you also lose against pseudo fighters like Vigoroth and Machamp. However, you still, as you see, you still win a slew of really great meta matchups against, like, you actually went against G-Fisk now. You beat Altaria, you beat Alola Marowak. You'll also beat Obama Snow if they do happen to catch one. I haven't seen any Snovers running around for Catch Cup recently, so don't bank on that too much. Magnezone, Gloom, and also other matchups like Shadow Razor Leafers. Now again, the con about running Umbreon really is that you have to be careful of its negative matchups. You just have to, as long as you avoid Charmers and Fighters, you can take a Fighter, you're doing pretty well. Because you'll still only win the closer matchup if you have Last Resort, if you have Shield Advantage. Like the 1-0s or the 2-1s. Those are where you'll flip certain matchups that Umbreon will normally lose. So in summary, I give Umbreon a 7 out of 10. The reason I give it a 7 out of 10 is because Charmers, if someone powers up a Wigglytuff, you have to avoid it. So you go, 7 out of 10 is still really good rating. Like I said, this is, in my opinion, still the best single move mon in the game. The only reason I rate it so low is because, one, depending on which EV you pick up, you're going to have to power it up. As you see, it maxed out in your 1500, so you're going to have to power it up at around level 24-25. So it's a little expensive on the power-up side, but generally you could still use generally, like, you could catch a high... If you power one up and you're not going to second move it, the most you'll probably spend is, like, 10k dust, something like that. You won't spend a lot for an Umbreon. If you have one that's already at, like, level 24 or 25, I would take a look at it, power it, like, evolve it, and if it turns into an Umbreon, which well, there's a way you can manipulate Umbreon. So if you want to guarantee an Umbreon, you need to walk it for 10k mile, you need to walk it for 10 kilometers and evolve it at night as your buddy. And then you will automatically get an Umbreon. The extra work it takes to get an Umbreon is also why I kind of give it a 7, because even though it doesn't take you a lot of resources, it just takes some time and effort. Does that make sense? You can make sure you get 2 candies for your Umbreon or Eevee candy, and then poof, you power it up, you evolve it, and then you will get your Umbreon. Again, for that to happen, make sure it's dark, evolve it, 10 kilometers, make sure you get 2 candies, have it as your buddy, evolve it at night, and boom, you have an Umbreon guaranteed. But that's just it. So even though Umbreon is, in my opinion, the best first single move, very good single move, you do have to put in a little time and effort if you really want to use Umbreon, because walking 10 kilometers or having your phone GPS you around at home while you're while you're just waiting for kilometers does cost a little bit. And like I mentioned, just depending on level 2. So it's that time effort why I put it as a 7 out of 10. You just have to put some effort into getting an Umbreon if you want one for the Catch Cup. However, like I said, you don't really need Last Resort unless things like Mandibuzz or if you're in Shield Advantage scenario. If you're in that scenario where you're up Shield Advantage and you're locked into a fighter, it's probably a chance that you're going to lose anyway, so I wouldn't be too worried that everything ends up that way. Anyways, that's the analysis, guys. Again, Umbreon, in my opinion, since you beat Altara, you beat a lot of relevant meta picks. I do give it a 7 out of 10. It's still really good. With Foul Play, you could do very well in the Catch Cup. If you guys like this video, please like and subscribe. If you guys love Umbreon, guess what? You rejoice because Umbreon's actually really good in the Catch Cup. And Last Resort isn't really needed. It can get by just fine without Last Resort. As long as you pivot away from its weaknesses, like I say over here in the cons, you'll do perfectly fine. Now, we'll see you guys on the next video, and good luck on your Catch Cup experience.